Before kings ruled, before swords were drawn, there was a woman who forged destiny. She was the keeper of the flame, the first to unlock the secrets held within the earth. They called her the Lady of the Forge, and her hands, though calloused and strong, brought forth not weapons of war, but tools of creation. With every strike of her hammer, a spark of innovation ignited, shaping the very course of human history. Imagine a world without the plow, a world where fields lay fallow, where communities struggled to feed themselves. It was her insight, her understanding of metal, that gave us the first plowshare. This simple tool, born from fire and iron, tore through the stubborn soil, turning barren land into bountiful harvests. For the first time, humanity had a surplus, a security we had never known. Villages grew into towns, and the constant fear of starvation began to recede. She didn't just bend iron, she bent the arc of survival in our favor. But her genius didn't stop in the fields. Look at the homes we built, the shelters that protected us from the elements. The nails that held timbers together, the hinges that allowed doors to swing open, welcoming neighbors and barring threats. These two were her creations. She forged the tools that built communities, literally and figuratively. The axe that cleared the forests, the chisel that shaped the stone, every piece of hardware that transformed a simple hut into a lasting home, all bore the mark of her ingenuity. She was the architect of our domestic world, the unsung hero behind every hearth and home. Then came the new gods, gods of war, of conquest, of gleaming bronze and sharp-edged steel. They arrived with thunder and fury, demanding obedience and tribute. Their priests and warriors looked upon her work, the tools of peace and prosperity, and saw only potential for destruction. They wanted swords, not plowshares. They wanted spearheads, not chisels. They saw her sacred flame not as a source of creation, but as a fire to fuel their ambitions for empire. They came to her forge, their shadows long and imposing. They demanded she turn her skills to the art of killing. They promised her power, gold, a place by their side as they carved up the world. But the Lady of the Forge looked into the heart of her fire, the same fire that had given life and sustenance to her people, and she saw a different path. She saw the blood that would be spilled, the communities that would be shattered, the progress that would be undone. She refused. She would not let her gift be corrupted. She would not let the fire of creation be twisted into a furnace of war. For this defiance, they sought to extinguish her, to erase her name from history, to bury her legacy under the foundations of their new, violent world. They declared her an enemy, a heretic, a relic of a past they were determined to destroy. They tried to burn down her forge, to scatter her apprentices, to silence her story forever. But the Lady of the Forge did more than shape steel. She shaped civilization, and when the new gods came, she refused to burn out. Her knowledge wasn't lost, it was hidden. It flowed like a secret river beneath the surface of history. Her apprentices, scattered to the four winds, carried her teachings with them. They became the quiet blacksmiths in remote villages, the skilled artisans whose work was often overlooked but utterly essential. They taught their children, and their children's children, not just the craft of metalworking, but the philosophy behind it, that true power lies not in the ability to destroy, but in the strength to build. In one village, a smith forged horseshoes that allowed merchants to travel farther, connecting disparate cultures and economies. In another, a woman repaired the vital cooking pots and farming tools that sustained her community through a harsh winter, her work as critical as any warrior's shield. The spirit of the forge lived on in these small, essential acts of creation and maintenance. The new gods could have their grand temples and bloody battlefields. The true foundation of society was still being hammered out, piece by piece, in the humble forges inspired by her legacy. This is the story they tried to erase, the story of how civilization was truly built not by the sword, but by the hammer. Not by kings, but by the Creator, not with the goal of conquest, but with the purpose of community. It's a story whispered in the ringing of an anvil, a story written in the glowing heart of the fire. A story of a woman who chose creation over destruction, and in doing so, laid the groundwork for everything that came after. The world remembers the kings, the generals, the conquerors. Their names are carved into monuments, their battles recounted in epic poems. But who remembers the one who gave them the tools to build their empires in the first place? Who remembers the woman whose forge was the epicenter of a revolution that fed millions, housed families, and connected the world? Her story is the bedrock upon which all other histories are built. And it's time her story was told. It's time we honored the true architects of our world. This is more than just a tale from the distant past. It's a reminder. A reminder that the tools we create define the world we inhabit. That the choices we make to build or to break, to connect or to divide echo through generations. The flame of that first forge has never truly gone out. It flickers in every workshop, in every laboratory, in every artist's studio. It is the enduring spirit of human ingenuity, the relentless drive to create a better world. The Lady of the Forge is not just a figure from a forgotten age. She is a symbol of the power that lies within each of us, the power to shape our own destiny. Join us as we uncover this lost history, as we piece together the fragments of a story that changes everything we thought we knew about our past. We will journey back to a time before written records, guided by archaeology, mythology, and the enduring legacy of the craft itself. We will relight the fire of the first forge and reveal the truth about the woman who started it all. A truth that is more powerful and more relevant today than ever before. Her legacy is our inheritance. It's time to claim it.
History isn't just what happened, it's what was hidden. Welcome to the Chrono Archives, where lost empires rise again, forgotten legends speak, and ancient truths are brought back to life. From world-shaping history and powerful myths to legendary rulers and timeless civilizations, every story here is carefully uncovered, deeply researched, and cinematically told. The past is calling, will you answer? Subscribe and journey through time, one unforgettable chronicle at a time.
In the misty dawn of a world, yet unwritten, nestled among ancient Celtic hills, a lone fire burned. No human hand had kindled this flame. It was a sacred origin, an elemental birth, a spark of something divine waiting to be claimed. This is where our story begins, long before recorded history, in an age of myth and shadow. It poses a question we still ask today. Where did civilization truly begin? Was fire merely discovered by stumbling tribes, or was it a gift, bestowed upon humanity by a force beyond their understanding? From the heart of this primal fire, a figure emerged. Young, radiant, her aura glowing like embers in the twilight. This was Brigid, daughter of the Dagda, the great god of the Tuatha De Danann. In Irish mythology, she is not just one goddess, but three: a goddess of the flame, a goddess of the forge, and a goddess of inspiration. She was the keeper of fire, the patron of poetry, and the guardian of healing. She was the light in the darkness, the warmth against the encroaching cold. Imagine the first humans to witness this sight. They were figures huddled in the distance, wrapped in furs, their world defined by the struggle for survival. They saw the fire not as a gift, but as a terror. A wild, devouring beast that consumed the forest and drove them from their caves. They watched it with a mixture of awe and profound fear, unable to comprehend its power, let alone approach it. They saw destruction where Brigid saw potential. As these distant figures watched, paralyzed by fear, Brigid moved towards the flame. The air crackled with energy. The fire, which had roared and spat at the world, seemed to recognize her. It didn't recede. It leaned in, its tendrils of light reaching for her like a child to its mother. She extended her hand, not with hesitation, but with an innate confidence, and the fire bent to her will. It danced upon her palm, a tamed and loyal companion, its destructive fury calmed into a gentle, life-giving glow. The tribes watched, their fear slowly turning to disbelief, then to wonder. This was no ordinary woman. This was a force of nature personified. She didn't just control the fire, she understood it, she saw its soul. It wasn't just a weapon against the cold and the dark, it was a tool for creation. It was the key to unlocking a future they couldn't even dream of. With the fire now her willing servant, Bridget led the way to a stone hollow, the world's first forge. She gathered rough, dark chunks of iron ore, the inert blood of the earth. The humans who had cautiously followed her could not see the potential locked within these stones. They saw only rock, but Bridget saw swords and plows and nails to build homes. She fed the ore into the heart of her tamed flame, and the fire roared to life, its heat intensifying beyond anything the natural world had ever produced. The stone glowed, then turned a liquid, molten gold. It was a sight of pure alchemy, the transformation of solid earth into a flowing river of light. Bridget, her face illuminated by the celestial heat, dipped a stone tool into the molten metal. She drew out a shimmering, malleable mass of iron, a piece of the earth's core brought into the light. This was the moment of conception for a new age. The moment humanity's destiny was reforged. She laid the glowing metal upon a stone anvil, and with a hammer carved from rock and wood, she struck. The sound echoed through the hills like the first clap of thunder in a new world. Sparks exploded from the impact, a shower of miniature stars scattering into the dawn. Each spark was a seed of an idea, a promise of innovation. With every strike, she wasn't just shaping metal, she was shaping the future. The dull rock transformed, taking the shape of the world's first tool, not a weapon of war, but a tool of craft. A symbol that humanity's purpose was not just to survive, but to create. As the sun climbed higher, casting long shadows across the valley, the transformation was complete. Where there was once fear, there was now understanding. Where there was once a struggle for survival, there was now the dawn of craftsmanship. Bridget had not just given humanity fire, she had given them the knowledge of the forge, the art of the smith, the poetry of creation. She taught them that the same fire that could destroy a forest could also forge a plow to feed a village. The same heat that could scorch the earth could also craft the tools to build a home. This was her legacy, the shift from a nomadic existence, ruled by the whims of nature, to a settled life, where humanity could begin to shape its own environment. The fire of the forge became the heart of every village, a place of community, invention, and progress. It was the warmth that gathered people together, and the light that fueled their brightest ideas. Bridget's gift was the foundation upon which civilization was built. Our camera pushes into that glowing forge fire, the very same flame that Bridget first commanded. The embers swirl and dance, the orange and yellow light growing brighter, hotter, more intense. The sound of the hammer on the anvil fades, replaced by the clash of steel on steel, the roar of 1,000 fires burning at once. The flame transforms before our eyes, no longer just a tool of creation, but now the heart of a battlefield forge. The sacred fire of Bridget, the spark of civilization, now fuels the ambitions and conflicts of humankind. The gift had been given, but how humanity would choose to wield it, for creation or destruction, was a story yet to be written. The age of myth was ending, and the age of man was about to begin, all born from that first, divine spark. Thank you for joining us on this journey back to the dawn of myth. If you enjoyed this story, be sure to like, subscribe, and ring that bell to explore more legends that shaped our world. In the heart of the Iron Age, where tribal conflicts carved the very landscape, there was a forge unlike any other. Here, sparks didn't just fly, they danced like angry stars, each one a promise of power. The walls were lined with death's sharpest teeth swords, axes, spearheads all gleaming in the firelight. The air was thick with the smell of hot metal and coal, and the mood was intense, driven by a rhythmic, martial beat. This was the domain of Bridget. She was no longer the apprentice you might remember. Authority now clung to her like the soot on her hands. Her every movement was precise, powerful. Celtic warriors, their faces painted for battle, would come to her forge, their eyes wide with a mixture of reverence and fear. They saw the way she worked the glowing steel, how she commanded the flames with a will as strong as the metal she shaped. Brigid's reputation spread like wildfire across the warring lands. Her blades were legendary. They sang a deadly song in combat, and it was said they never shattered, never chipped, never failed a warrior in his most desperate hour. A sword forged by Brigid was more than just steel. It was a promise of survival. The warriors whispered that her fire held a living spirit, that she hammered the very essence of victory into each weapon. She was their goddess of the forge, their champion of the battlefield. With every swing of her hammer, she felt the weight of her work. Each perfectly balanced blade, each razor-sharp edge, was destined for the chaos of war. She saw the faces of the men who would carry them, their eyes burning with the thirst for glory or a grim determination to protect their own. The question echoed in the ringing of the anvil. Did forging the sword make her responsible for the bloodshed it would cause? Was this fire in her hearth a tool for creation, or simply a weapon for destruction? She fed the flames, and the flames fed the war. The rhythm of her work became the drumbeat of the impending conflict. The hammer strikes grew louder, faster, more urgent. Outside the forge, the sounds of preparation swelled. The sharpening of old blades, the mending of leather armor, the low murmur of war chants. Warriors gathered, their new weapons from Brigid's forge feeling like extensions of their own arms. The air crackled with anticipation, a storm of violence waiting to break. The world was holding its breath, and Brigid's hammer provided the relentless, pounding heartbeat. But the Lady of the Forge was not a goddess of war. In the deafening silence that followed that thought, everything changed. The warriors were gone, the rhythmic hammering ceased. There was only Brigid, a single, final blade glowing on her anvil, brighter than any before. It was a masterpiece of destruction, the culmination of all her skill, forged in the crucible of a land, tearing itself apart. The heat coming off it was immense, a physical presence in the room. She lifted the incandescent sword. Not with the grim purpose of arming another warrior, but with a new, solemn resolve. She turned not to the oil trough that would temper the steel for hardness, but to a large basin of pure, cool water. With a final, decisive movement, she plunged the glowing blade deep into the water. A massive explosion of steam erupted, instantly engulfing the entire screen, hissing and roaring like a dying beast. It was a sound of quenching, not just of steel, but of an entire era of conflict. The violent energy of the forge was consumed in that single, cathartic moment, swallowed by the cleansing power of water. The world seemed to hold its breath as the white cloud filled everything. Slowly, as the steam began to clear, the scene it revealed was not the same. The weapon-lined walls were gone. The harsh, fiery glare was replaced by a soft, gentle glow. The anvil was still there, but it was quiet, at rest. The fearsome forge of war had transformed. The last of the steam dissipates, and we see the forge in its new form. It is no longer a place of weapon smithing, but a quiet hearth. The fire still burns, but now it offers warmth, not fury. It's a place for gathering, for telling stories, for healing. The basin of water, once used to quench a blade, now reflects the calm, dancing flames. Brigid, her face no longer strained with the intensity of her craft, looks into the fire. Her work had shifted. She was no longer forging tools for taking lives, but creating a space for living them. The fire, once a weapon, was now a tool for community. The true spirit she commanded wasn't of battle, but of resilience, warmth, and hope. Her greatest creation wasn't a sword that could never break, but a hearth that could never grow cold. Thank you for joining us on this journey. If this story resonated with you, consider subscribing for more tales from the forge of myth and history. Have you ever wondered about the power of a single flame? How something that can forge a sword can also bring comfort and warmth? This is the story of Brigid, a goddess of many faces, a figure woven into the very fabric of Celtic myth. She wasn't just one thing, she was a triple goddess. The smith, whose hammer rang out, shaping metal with fire and force. The poet, whose words flowed like a river, sparking inspiration and truth. And the healer, whose touch could soothe the deepest pains. Today, we journey back to a time of myth and magic, to a sacred well nestled near a glowing forge. Twilight paints the sky in shades of purple and orange. The air is calm, filled with a sense of quiet reverence. Here, women of the tribe gather, their faces illuminated by the soft light of a sacred flame they tend with care. This isn't a fire of destruction, but one of protection, of nurturing. Among them stands Bridget, not as the fierce smith or the fiery poet, but in her serene form, as the great healer. In the circle of warmth lies a small child, their breath shallow, their body weakened by sickness. The mother holds her child close, her eyes filled with a desperate hope, a silent prayer to the goddess before them. The other women watch, their hearts heavy, their collective energy focused on this fragile life. They understand the duality of the world, the balance of light and shadow, and tonight, they pray for light. Can the same fire that forges the weapons of war also mend a broken body? Can the force that creates also heal? This is the paradox at the heart of Bridget's power. With a grace that stills the evening air, Bridget moves towards the fire. She doesn't speak, not yet, her presence alone is a comfort. The fire crackles, its embers glowing like a dragon's eye. She kneels beside the sick child, her expression one of profound compassion. The air grows thick with anticipation. The women lean in, their breathing hushed. Bridget raises her hand, not to touch the child, but to hold it near the sacred flame. She seems to draw the very essence of the fire into her palm. A gentle warmth begins to radiate from her hand, a visible shimmer in the twilight. It's not the searing heat of the forge, but a soft, life-giving energy. This warmth flows from her, across the small space, and envelops the child. It's like a blanket of pure light, a golden glow that seems to push back the encroaching shadows of illness. The child, who had been so still, stirs, a faint sigh escapes their lips. This is the magic of the healer, a power as potent and transformative as any hammer strike. It's a reminder that strength isn't always about force. Sometimes, it's about the gentle application of warmth and care. As the warmth spreads, sinking deep into the child's small frame, Bridget finally speaks. Her voice is not a command, but a soft, resonant whisper that seems to carry the wisdom of ages. Fire, she says, her eyes fixed on the glowing embers, is a purifier. It burns away the dross, leaving only what is strong and true. The women listen, captivated. This they understood from the forge. The impurities in metal were burned away to create a perfect blade. But Bridget continues, her words now a gentle revelation. And so does truth. The connection hangs in the air, a stunning, powerful idea. The fire that destroys impurities is the same force as the truth that burns away falsehood. Healing, then, is not just a physical act. It is a restoration of truth, of the body's innate, perfect state. The sickness is an impurity, a falsehood that has taken root. Bridget's fire, her divine energy, is the embodiment of this ultimate truth, burning away the illness to reveal the healthy child beneath. It's a moment of profound insight, a twist that deepens the meaning of the entire ritual. The flame is not just a tool, it is a symbol of absolute clarity and purity. In that moment of shared understanding, the climax of the healing arrives. The child takes a deep, clear breath, and then another. The sound is like the sweetest music, cutting through the stillness of the twilight. Color returns to their cheeks, a healthy blush chasing away the pale gray of sickness. Their eyes flutter open, no longer clouded with fever, but clear and aware. A small hand reaches out, seeking its mother's, a wave of relief washes over the gathered women, their collective sigh of gratitude mingling with the crackle of the fire. The child is healed, the sacred fire has done its work. But this is more than just a single act of healing, it is a foundational moment. From this night on, the flame at the heart of the community becomes something more. It is no longer just a source of warmth or a tool for the smith. It becomes an eternal symbol of hope, of renewal, of the enduring power of healing and truth. It is the flame of Bridget, a light to be tended through the generations, a constant reminder that even in the darkest of times, there is a power that can purify and restore. The ritual is complete. The mother cradles her healthy child, tears of joy streaming down her face. The other women offer quiet thanks. The immediate danger has passed, leaving behind a deep sense of peace and enduring faith. The story, however, doesn't end here. The power of Bridget, the triple goddess, is a cycle. The fire of healing has done its work, but its energy now transforms. In the crowd, a young poet watches, their mind ablaze with what they have just witnessed. The sacred flame, with its promise of purification and truth, is reflected in the poet's wide, inspired eyes. The fire that healed the body is about to ignite the soul, ready to be forged into words, into a story that will be told for 1,000 years. The goddess of the flame, the forge, and the word has completed her circle. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey into Celtic mythology. The stories of Bridget remind us of the interconnectedness of all things creation, destruction, art, and healing. If you enjoyed this tale, please like, share, and subscribe for more explorations into the myths and legends that shape our world. In the heart of a long-vanished Celtic world, in a great hall where shadows danced to the flicker of torches, history wasn't just made with swords and shields. It was forged in fire, but not the kind that consumes. This was the fire of poetry, the sacred flame of the spoken word. Imagine this scene: chieftains and warriors, their faces etched by firelight, gathered not for war, but for a different kind of power. A bard stands before them, a vessel for stories that echo through generations. And behind him, unseen by most, is a radiant presence, a soft glow that seems to warm the very air. This is Bridget, the goddess of poets, blacksmiths, and healers. Her fire isn't just for the forge, it's the spark of inspiration, the intellectual flame that kindles in the mind of the poet. Tonight, the bard's voice rises, weaving tales of courage and loss, of triumphs and tragedies. He speaks of a hero, fallen in a recent battle, his name on the verge of being lost to the mists of time. But as the bard speaks, something magical happens. The hero lives again. The tribe feels his strength, his valor. The story doesn't just recall his deeds. It resurrects his spirit in the hearts of his people. This is the power Bridget bestows. It's the alchemy of turning grief into glory, sorrow into strength. It begs the question: what is truly more powerful, the sword that takes a life, or the story that makes it immortal? Who really shapes the destiny of a people, the king who commands the army, or the poet who commands the heart? The bard's voice swells, his words painting vivid pictures in the minds of his audience. He describes the clash of steel, the cries of the brave, but then he shifts. He speaks not just of the battle, but of the reason for it. He speaks of the love for their land, the loyalty to their kin, the legacy they fight to protect. The warriors in the hall, who just moments before were somber, now feel a surge of pride. Their fallen brother is not a victim of fate, but a symbol of their enduring spirit. The story gives his sacrifice meaning, transforming a painful memory into a source of collective strength and identity. This is how a culture survives, not just by winning wars, but by remembering why they fight. Then comes the moment that changes everything. The bard pauses, the crackling of the torches filling the sudden silence. He looks at the chieftains, at the hardened faces of the warriors, and delivers a truth that cuts deeper than any blade. Steel wins battles, his voice rings out, clear and resonant. But words win generations. A murmur ripples through the hall. It's a profound shift in understanding. The immediate victory on the battlefield is fleeting, but a story, a poem, a song that is eternal. It can travel through time, inspiring descendants they will never meet, guiding a people long after their own bones have turned to dust. The true conquerors are not those who wield the sharpest steel, but those who tell the most powerful stories. The realization dawns on every face in the hall. The chieftains, the warriors, even the servants in the shadows, they all feel it. The power of their shared history, their collective memory, is their greatest treasure. The bard, channeling Brigid's divine fire, has not just entertained them. He has armed them with something far more resilient than iron. He has given them their identity. And then, he begins a chant. A simple, rhythmic verse honoring the fallen hero, honoring their tribe, honoring the very land beneath their feet. One by one, voices join in, first a few warriors, then a chieftain, and soon the entire hall is a single, resonant chorus. The sound swells, shaking the very timbers of the roof. It is a moment of pure unity, of a people bound together not by force, but by a shared narrative. The fire in the hearth roars, the torches burn brighter, and in the center of it all, the bard seems to glow with an inner light. Brigid's mystical fire has become an intellectual flame, passed from the goddess to the poet, and now to every single person in the hall. It is the fire of culture, of memory, of belonging. This is the enduring legacy of Brigid. She teaches that the forge of the mind is where the most lasting weapons are crafted. Words are the hammer, stories are the anvil, and the soul of a people is the glowing metal, shaped and strengthened for the ages to come. The power isn't in conquest, but in creation. As the chant slowly fades, a sense of peace and profound strength settles over the hall. The stories of their heroes will be told to their children, and their children's children. The tribe is not just a collection of individuals. It is a living story, constantly being told. The firelight has shown them a timeless truth, but time, like all things, moves on. As the last torch flickers and dies, the ancient hall is plunged into darkness. The world of chieftains and bards recedes into the past. And out of the deep, echoing silence, a new sound emerges, faint at first, then clearer. It is the slow, solemn ringing of a monastery bell, signaling the dawn of a new era, a new way of preserving the word. The flame of knowledge was not extinguished, it was simply passed to new keepers. The story of Brigid, too, would transform. The Celtic goddess of the poetic fire would be embraced by a new faith, becoming Saint Brigid of Kildare. Her fire temple would become a monastery, her sacred flame tended by nuns for centuries. The power of her story was so great that it transcended religions, proving the bard's words true. Stories outlast empires. The intellectual fire she represented, the light of learning, inspiration, and creativity continued to burn, illuminating the so-called Dark Ages. From the bardic hall to the monastic scriptorium, the essential human need to create, to remember, and to share our stories remains the most powerful magic of all. Thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed this journey into the past, don't forget to like and subscribe for more stories that time forgot. Have you ever wondered what happens to the gods of old when new faiths arrive? Do they simply vanish, fade into myth like whispers on the wind, or do they do something far more remarkable? Let's journey back to early Christian Ireland, a land caught between two worlds. Picture this: a rugged stone monastery rises against a cloudy sky, a symbol of a new era. But nearby, something ancient persists, a sacred flame, tended for generations by pagan hands, flickers defiantly. This isn't just fire, it's a connection to the old ways, a tribute to the goddess Brigid. There's a palpable tension in the air, a sense of a world on the brink of profound change. From the mists, the goddess herself watches, her form ethereal, her presence a silent question mark over the future of her people and their traditions. She sees them coming, a procession of Christian monks, their simple robes a stark contrast to the wild, untamed landscape. They walk with purpose, their destination clear, the sacred flame. What will they do? This is the moment we all expect, the clash of civilizations, the new extinguishing the old. The goddess Brigid watches, perhaps with a sense of resignation, as they approach the heart of her power. This fire represents everything she is, the goddess of poetry, healing, and smithcraft. It's the lifeblood of her worship. The monks reach the flame, they pause. The air is still, heavy with anticipation. Will they douse it with water, smother it with earth, and declare a new god victorious? But what happens next is not what you'd expect. The monks don't extinguish the flame. Instead, they form a circle around it. They don't destroy it, they guard it. They take up the mantle of the flamekeepers, ensuring its light continues to burn. This single act changes everything. It's not a conquest, it's a continuation. A bridge is being built between the old world and the new, right before the goddess's eyes. It raises a fascinating question. When a new religion takes hold, must it erase everything that came before, or can it absorb, adapt, and transform? The monks, by choosing to protect this pagan symbol, are answering that question in a way no one could have predicted. They saw not a rival deity, but a powerful symbol of light, inspiration, and continuity that resonated with their own beliefs. The true twist isn't just that the flame survived. It's what happened to the goddess herself. She wasn't erased, she wasn't forgotten. She was transformed. As the monks tended the flame, the stories of the goddess Brigid began to merge with the stories of a new, powerful Christian woman. A new figure emerged from the mists of history and faith, Saint Brigid of Kildare. This new Brigid was a founder of monasteries, a worker of miracles, a figure of immense compassion and strength. The attributes of the goddess: her connection to fire, her role as a patron of craft and learning, her healing powers were not lost. They were woven into the very fabric of this new saint's identity. The people didn't have to choose between their beloved goddess and their new faith. They could have both in one remarkable figure, and the flame. The sacred flame that had burned for the goddess was brought into the Christian convent that Saint Brigid founded in Kildare. For centuries, a community of nuns took over the duty of the monks, and before them, the pagan priestesses. They tended the flame, keeping it perpetually alight in honor of Saint Brigid. It became a powerful symbol of continuous prayer and unwavering faith. Think about that. A pre-Christian, pagan fire, a beacon for a goddess, becomes the heart of a Christian monastery, tended by nuns for over 1,000 years. It was finally extinguished during the Reformation, but the legacy was so powerful that in 1993, the flame was ceremonially relit in Kildare's Market Square. The tradition was reborn. So, do gods die? The story of Brigid suggests something else entirely. It shows us that culture is not a zero-sum game. Beliefs can blend, merge, and evolve in beautiful and unexpected ways. The goddess wasn't destroyed. She was given a new name, a new story, but her spirit endured. She became a saint, a bridge connecting the ancient soul of Ireland with its Christian future. Her story is a testament to the resilience of belief and the human need for symbols that embody light, hope, and inspiration. From a sacred pagan fire, to a perpetual flame in a Christian convent, to a candle burning in a modern home, her light continues. It's a powerful reminder that sometimes the past doesn't just disappear, it simply finds a new way to shine. This process, known as syncretism, is not unique to Ireland. We see it all over the world as cultures and religions interact. Think about the holiday of Christmas. Many of its most beloved traditions, like the Christmas tree, the Yule log, and the timing near the winter solstice, have roots in pre-Christian pagan festivals celebrating the return of the sun. These ancient customs weren't stamped out. They were reinterpreted and incorporated into a new religious framework, giving them new meaning while retaining their ancient appeal. Or look at the tradition surrounding Easter, with its symbols of eggs and rabbits. These are ancient symbols of fertility and rebirth, tied to the spring equinox long before they were associated with the Christian resurrection. The new faith absorbed the powerful symbolism of the old, creating a richer, more layered celebration. In Latin America, the blending of indigenous beliefs and Catholicism is incredibly vibrant. Figures like the Virgin of Guadalupe in Mexico are a perfect example. She appeared to an indigenous man, Juan Diego, and is often depicted with features that resonate deeply with pre-Columbian goddesses like Tonantzin, the mother goddess. This fusion allowed indigenous peoples to embrace the new faith while still honoring their ancestral connections. Festivals like the Day of the Dead blend Catholic All Saints' Day with ancient Aztec traditions honoring the deceased. It's not one or the other, it's a beautiful, complex synthesis of both. This shows us that faith and culture are fluid. They are living things that breathe, adapt, and change. They borrow, they lend, and they create something new in the process. The story of Bridget, therefore, is not an isolated incident, but a powerful example of a universal human process. It's how we make sense of change. Instead of seeing the arrival of a new faith as a cataclysmic end, we can see it as a catalyst for transformation. The core human needs for light in the darkness, for healing, for inspiration, for a connection to something greater than ourselves remain constant. The names and the rituals may change, but the underlying spirit often endures. The flame of the goddess Bridget wasn't extinguished. Its light was simply refracted through a new prism, shining on for future generations. It's a story of survival, adaptation, and the incredible, enduring power of belief. So, the next time you see a candlelit in a church, or a tradition that seems older than the holiday it's part of, take a moment to think about the journey it might have taken. It could be a whisper from a forgotten world, a flicker from an ancient flame that refused to die out, a testament to a god or goddess who found a new way to live on. The past is never truly gone. It's all around us, woven into the fabric of our present, continuing to light our way forward. Thanks for watching this deep dive into history and faith. If you enjoyed this journey, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more stories that connect the past to our present. Across the green hills of Ireland, whispers of the old gods still linger in the wind, rustling through the leaves of ancient oaks and dancing over the stones of forgotten ruins. Long before the bells of monasteries chimed across the valleys, there was a different kind of sacredness, one born of fire and earth, of poetry and craft. This is the story of a goddess who refused to be forgotten, a flame that could never be extinguished. This is the story of Bridget. Who was she? To the ancient Celts, Bridget was a powerhouse, a triple goddess, who held sway over three vital aspects of life: the roaring fire of the smith as forged, the gentle warmth of the healing hearth, and the bright spark of poetic inspiration. She was the patron of blacksmiths, who hammered metal into tools and weapons, transforming raw earth into objects of power and purpose. She was the guardian of healers, midwives, and herbalists who mended bodies and soothed spirits. And she was the muse of the bards, the keepers of history and story, whose words could build kingdoms or bring them to ruin. She was the goddess of transformation itself. Imagine a time when the world was lit by firelight. The forge was the heart of every community. It wasn't just a place to make a horseshoe or a plow, it was a place of magic. The blacksmith, under Bridget's watchful eye, was seen as a kind of magician, a master of the elements. He took unyielding iron and, with fire and hammer, bent it to his will. This act of creation, of turning something hard and cold into something useful and beautiful, was a miracle. It was Bridget's miracle, repeated every day in forges all across the land. Her presence was felt in the hiss of hot metal quenching in water, in the rhythmic clang of the hammer on the anvil, a sound that was both a prayer and a song. But her fire wasn't just for forging metal, it was also the fire of healing. In a world without modern medicine, the hearth fire was a sanctuary. It provided warmth against the biting cold and light against the dark. It was where remedies were brewed, where mothers gave birth, and where the sick were tended. Bridget was the gentle hand on a fevered brow, the wisdom in the healer's concoctions. Wells and springs were sacred to her, their life-giving waters believed to hold her curative powers. People would travel for miles to dip cloths in these holy wells, tying them to nearby trees as offerings, leaving behind their ailments and their prayers. She was the promise of renewal, the belief that even after the harshest winter, life could be restored. And then there was the fire of the mind, the imbus forestni, or the light of inspiration. For the Celtic bards and poets, creativity wasn't just a skill. It was a sacred gift, a divine flame kindled within the soul by Bridget herself. She was the whisper of a new story, the flash of insight that solved a riddle, the melody that captured the heart of a nation. The poets were more than entertainers, they were the guardians of culture, law, and history. Their words held immense power, and it was Bridget who fueled their craft. To be a poet was to channel her energy, to speak with a voice that was both human and divine. As the centuries turned, a new faith arrived in Ireland, bringing with it a new god and new saints. The old ways were challenged, the ancient pantheons pushed into the shadows. Many gods and goddesses faded into folklore, their temples crumbling, their names spoken only in hushed tones. But Bridget was different. She was too deeply woven into the fabric of Irish life to simply disappear. Her power was too real, her symbolism too potent. So, she adapted, or rather, the people adapted her. The goddess Bridget, daughter of the Dagda, seamlessly transformed into Saint Bridget of Kildare, one of Ireland's most beloved saints. The parallels are astonishing. Saint Bridget, like the goddess, is associated with fire, healing, and craftsmanship. Her monastery in Kildare was famed for an eternal flame, tended by nuns for centuries, a direct continuation of the pagan practice of honoring the goddess. The stories say her prayers could heal the sick, that she could multiply food, and that her wisdom was unmatched. Her feast day, February 1st, falls on the same day as the ancient pagan festival of Imbolc, which marked the beginning of spring and was dedicated to the goddess Bridget. Imbolc was a festival of light and purification, celebrating the first stirrings of life after the long, dark winter. Aways would begin to lactate, signaling that new lambs were on their way. The earth was reawakening. People would light bonfires and candles to welcome back the sun's warmth and honor Bridget's life-giving power. They would craft Bridget's crosses from rushes, a unique four-armed symbol, and hang them over their doors to protect their homes and livestock for the year ahead. This tradition continues to this day, a beautiful thread connecting modern Ireland directly to its pre-Christian past. What is it about a symbol that allows it to outlive a religion? Perhaps it's because a symbol speaks a language older than words. The cross of rushes, the sacred well, the eternal flame, these things tap into something fundamental within us. Fire, especially, holds a timeless power. It is destruction and creation, danger and comfort, light in the darkness. It represents the spark of life, the passion in our hearts, the light of our consciousness. For the people of Ireland, that fire was, and in many ways still is, Bridget. Today, we're witnessing another transformation. As people search for a deeper connection to nature, to their heritage, and to a sense of the sacred outside of traditional institutions, Bridget is re-emerging in her original, goddess form. Neo-pagan and spiritual communities are rekindling her flame, celebrating Imbolc, and honoring her as a powerful symbol of female strength, creativity, and resilience. We see her in the artist molding clay, the poet wrestling with a verse, the herbalist tending her garden, the activist fighting for a cause. She is the enduring spirit of transformation. From forge to healing well, from poetry to monastery, her essence has flowed through Irish history like a river, changing its course, but never running dry. In the end, the Lady of the Forge never needed temples built of stone. Her temple was the human heart, the creative mind, the skilled hand. It's a powerful legacy. It teaches us that what is truly essential doesn't need to be loud or dogmatic. It can be as quiet as a flickering candle, as strong as a well-forged blade, and as persistent as the coming of spring. It shows us that true power lies not in resisting change, but in the ability to adapt, to transform, and to endure. Some gods fade, some evolve. Thanks for watching. If you're interested in the hidden histories that shape our world, be sure to like this video and subscribe for more journeys into the past. See you next time.
As we close this chapter of the Chrono Archives, remember, the past is never truly gone. It waits patiently in the shadows of forgotten ruins, in the echoes of ancient voices, and in the timeless lessons that still guide us today. It waits to be remembered by curious minds like yours. Thank you for joining us on this extraordinary journey through the annals of time. If today's exploration of lost civilizations, mythical legends, or historical enigmas ignited your passion for the past, hit that like button. Drop a comment with your favorite moment or what you'd love to see next, and most importantly, subscribe to the Chrono Archives and continue the journey through time. Turn on notifications so you never miss an episode where we unearth buried secrets, decode ancient mysteries, and bring history's greatest stories back to life. Together, we'll keep the flame of the past burning bright. Until next time, fellow time travelers, keep questioning, keep discovering, and keep remembering. The Chrono Archives, where the past lives forever.